I'm Pam Bishop. I'm 46 years old and I have long COVID.
I'm Lila Bishop. I'm 11 years old, and my mom has long COVID.
That's right. So life wasn't always like this. Before I got sick 19 months ago, we had a lot of fun, didn't we?
She was really active, and she did a lot of activities, and she could go on lots of vacations with us, and she could go on hikes, and she could come to all of our sports games, and she could basically do anything with us.
That's true. So we were very active and led a pretty normal life with mom and dad and two kids, and everyone was busy, and we were just sort of moving through life unimpeded, I guess. And then when the pandemic hit, we locked down. We stayed home because we didn't want to catch COVID. And what did you do for school?
I did online school, and um, uh,
You did the pod.
and I did a pod with a group of kids that were also very safe, so we made sure that we were as safe as we could be.
Right. And so I worked from home, but my husband had to go into the office. And in December of 2020, my husband and I both ended up contracting COVID. And he didn't have any symptoms, and still to this day has had no symptoms. And I ended up getting very, very sick. So when my initial infection lasted about 3 weeks, and I wasn't hospitalized, but I was really sick. I isolated in our bedroom, and my husband stayed out in the rest of the house with the kids because even though he was positive, he wasn't symptomatic, and somebody had to still be with them. We assumed that they would both be positive also. But what happened?
So me and my brother were both tested negative, but we still weren't able to see my mom, and we had to live about 3 weeks without a mom.
Yeah, that was hard. That was hard for all of us. But then I got better and I went back to work as a professor and director of a research center. I'm still working from home, but I was still having bouts of fatigue and nausea. I thought it was just the healing process because I'd been so sick for so long. And that went on for a few months. And then, about 3 months after my initial infection, I started to be sick every day and realized that there was something called long COVID that people were getting. And I thought maybe I had it. And so I found a doctor who was willing to listen. And then I found locally, and then I found the Vanderbilt Adult Post COVID Clinic, and I was in the first cohort of patients for that. And so the beginning with the Vanderbilt Clinic was hard.
Because my mom would have to travel and stay away from us to about 2 days each time.
Mm-hmm. Right. So several times a month, I was going to Vanderbilt and seeing different specialists, and we were trying to figure out if there had been any visible damage done to my body from the COVID infection. And what we found out was what we would later come to know that most long haulers were finding was that all of the standard tests were coming back normal. So even though we were all feeling very sick, none of the testing that anyone was doing on us was really coming back showing that there was anything wrong with us. And right at the time that I started going to the Vanderbilt Clinic, and a wonderful doctor there named Jim Jackson started a support group for COVID long haulers. And I was in the very first meeting of that group. There were, I think, 8 of us in the meeting. And those 8 are still in the group to this day, which I guess doesn't say much for people getting better, but we meet every week. And so I have a community in that sense, but I don't have to go to Vanderbilt in person as much anymore. We've slowed down with that. I've been diagnosed with POTS, and so I go to the autonomic dysfunction clinic, and that diagnosis was in January of this year, and I sort of slowed down after getting an initial diagnosis, just because it took a lot out of all of us for me to go to the hospital that was 3 hours away several times a month. And so now I'm going back this month in July and starting to see more specialists again to try to figure out the that was a surprise. Did you not know I was going back?
No.
It'll be a couple of weeks. But we'll talk about that. Yes, so I'm going to start seeing some specialists again to try to figure out some new symptoms that I've been dealing with, which is always a struggle. So, what has life changed for you since I got COVID?
Well, it feels like you're gone, but really you're just in the room next door. You just don't really come out much, just come out sometimes for the chickens and to check on us. It's made me more independent, but me and my brother are both at a good age where we're good being independent and we can take care of ourselves because our dad has to work and our mom is resting.
Yes. So that's hard for me and for them, even though we're lucky that you're old enough to make food for yourself and manage yourself if I'm back here lying down. But I would much prefer to be not back here lying down in the bedroom. I would prefer to be out there with them and working. I had to leave my career in January of this year. I'd been on sick leave for quite some time and realized that we weren't getting better here, and I had to make a decision to leave the university. So, it's a positive to be home more, even if I'm back here. I do see you more, I think, than when I was working all the time. But
since she's back here all the time, we have to, and you needed a lot of rest. We can't go many places, so we've had to cancel activities and vacations.
That's true. We did have a big vacation planned for October for fall break with some friends, but it ended up that was going to be too hard for me to accomplish given my current health situation. So we decided not to do that.
And we were also going to go to Washington, D.C.
Right.
We also couldn't do that.
Yeah. We had a plan to go to Washington, D.C. and then New York, but it ended up that was going to be too hard for me to manage. So we did have to cancel that too. But hopefully we'll have a vacation soon that is something I can do and you guys can enjoy. I don't know what that would be.
Me neither.
It's difficult these days planning things just because I can't handle heat. It makes me very sick. I get dizzy, nauseous. I can pass out. I also fatigue very easily. So any activity that I do could put me in the bed for hours or days, or actually sometimes even weeks if I push too hard, which is what I did a lot in the beginning. But now I try to rest as much as I can and focus on what's really important, which is
chickens.
No, you. And chickens. We got chickens after I got sick because I was home all the time and I had some friends with chickens and I was looking for something to occupy myself. The kids were in school and my husband was at work all day, so I felt like I needed something to do. So we talked Dad into baby chickens.
You.
I talked Dad into baby chickens, and then we raised them from day-old chicks, and then Dad built a chicken coop. Yeah, I'm getting off track, she says. I do that a lot now. But yes, so I save my energy for taking the kids back and forth to all of their things, mostly these days. That's mostly what I leave the house for, that and doctor's appointments. That I don't like to get out in public a lot by myself because one,
Something happens.
what if something happens, right?
You got your POTS tag.
Right. I have a medical alert bracelet that has my diagnosis and my husband's emergency contact information in case I do pass out in public or have some sort of medical emergency. But I think the fear of that combined with the effort that it takes to go anywhere keeps me home a lot more. So, and I'm happy being at home these days. I think even pre-COVID, we were used to being home because of the pandemic, but now it would be nice to get out a little more, but it's not in the cards. So, is there anything else you want to say? We're not very good at this, are we?
1 second, let me think.
What about what we were talking about with the research? What do you wish would happen?
I wish that Dolly Parton.
That's not what I meant, but okay.
I wish that we could get researchers or somebody with a big voice to get awareness and to raise money to help research and to help find a cure,
Right.
if there is one.
I think there's a cure out there, or at least there's therapies. If they could figure out what's gone wrong with us, then we can figure out at least how to treat it. It may not be curable, but it might be treatable. And treatable means that maybe I could go back to living kind of a normal life again, which would be really great, wouldn't it?
Yeah. If Dolly Parton would notice us, then... What's so funny?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And we could...
Lila really likes Dolly Parton. And she wishes that Dolly Parton would...
he said me too.
Would get involved in long COVID research, but I'm not sure that those are her philanthropic interests, but that would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah. So do you have anything else to add about
I'm thinking.
our life with long COVID?
You getting long COVID and always being tired, and Dad being at work, we get to go to our friends' houses more because it takes us off your hands and it makes you worry about us less.
That's true. We're actually really lucky that we have such a good, it's called a support network, to have friends that are like family that will help step in and if I'm sick and I can't pick you up or take you somewhere, then they step in and they help, and they do the same with Grayson, and they help out with that and keep you overnight sometimes if I have to go to Vanderbilt or if I'm just really sick. So that's been lucky for all of us, and um, it makes you happy, doesn't it? This day to day. Cooking. What's cooking?
So my mom has never really cooked a lot of the meals. It's mainly been my dad, and he can still do that.
So what our day-to-day looks like. So summertime is different from when school is in for us. So dad's at work every day, either way. And then during the summertime, the kids are home and they're involved in all kinds of sports. So what do you play?
I do tennis, and I'm on the swim team, and I do cheerleading.
Right. And tumbling.
That's not a sport.
Okay, it's not a sport, but it's an activity. And then Grayson does crew.
He does rowing, tennis, climbing. Rock climbing.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's it for his sports this time, because I think he's done with soccer now. But anyway, they're very busy, and in the summer, our day looks like my husband getting up early in the morning to take my son to crew. It starts at 7 a.m. and he's done at 8:45. And some days I'll pick him up. But my husband usually tries to arrange for someone else to bring him home in case I'm not feeling very well. And then Lila has swim practice.
I have swim practice from 10 to 11, and from then it's hard for my mom to go back and forth to the pool, so I just wait and I pack a lunchbox and I stay at the pool most of the day until I have tennis practice.
Mm-hmm. And so that's 2 days a week that I just take her in the morning and drop her off. And she stays, and she has a lot of friends there. And then she does tennis. And in the middle of that, I have to get Grayson to tennis and back. So it's a little bit of back and forth, but it takes all the energy that I have to just get them back and forth where they need to go and make sure that they have everything that they need. And that's about it for me for my days in the summer. I can swim in the pool. Is actually good exercise for people who have POTS because of the compression of the water. It keeps the blood from pooling in your lower half. So, and it's cool. So sometimes if I'm feeling well enough, I go and I swim. But a lot of days I just have to, if I am not able to go home, I stay in the car and turn on the air conditioner. And what else do I do in the car?
So you get a really big fan and you recline your chair as far as it can go.
And shut out as much light as possible. Right. And I just rest.
Keep it cool.
Yes, we keep it nice and cool. That's important. But also I have to lie down. And it's hard for me because I don't look sick. Yeah, so I don't look sick to a lot of people. I look sick to me, and probably do I look sick to you?
You don't look sick.
I don't look sick, but I don't look like I used to.
No.
Yeah, not really.
Your face used to be a lot more
I've aged. It's aged me. Yes, you're right. I do feel like being sick has aged me quite a bit, actually, which is what she's demonstrating here with her hands pulling her face back. Um, yeah, so that's tricky. If people see me out, and I'm good. Um, they don't understand how sick I am. Um, they don't realize that if they're seeing me out in public, I've been preparing for that moment all day. Resting, staying cool, staying hydrated, making sure that I can make it to whatever it is that I feel obligated to go to. Um,
Sometimes she'll say, or you'll say, I need to go pick up the groceries at 5. At, well, maybe at 12. She'll be like, I have to go pick up the groceries at 5. I'm just going to rest in the back I until I have to go. And then everyone says okay, and then she rests, and we take care of ourselves, and we cook for ourselves, and we keep ourselves entertained.
yeah. So everybody in the house knows when I say I have to shut it down, I come back to the bedroom and I have to have it dark and quiet and cool and try to sort of reset my body because I get very tired and it's almost like all of my senses get overwhelmed. So I can't handle light and I can't handle sound or movement or anything like that. And so it's hard from a patient perspective to have an illness that's new to the world. And, um, you know, doctors typically, in the beginning, especially, didn't believe that this was a real illness. So there was the added burden of, being sick and worrying about losing my job and worrying about what kind of parent I was being and what kind of wife I was being. And then also, in addition to all of that, trying to convince doctors that I'm not making this up, which to me is one of the most. Oh, what did you have to say?
Once I was in the back of the car, and my dad was driving, and she was in the passenger seat, and you were saying, "I went to the doctor today, but I went to the doctor today, and he said he ran all the tests and he checked my blood and he did all this, but he said there was nothing wrong with me and he tried to give me an antidepressant."
Yes.
And then you were like, I just every time, and they're like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just depressed." And you're like, "I know there's something wrong with me. I need to find a better doctor."
That's right. That's exactly how it was in the beginning. And that's how it still is for a lot of people that have long COVID. They haven't found doctors yet who believe them. And a lot of doctors want to say that it's all in your head. But we know that it's not all in our head. And some people do have depression and anxiety as a symptom of having long COVID, but it's not what causes it. And so that's what a lot of people struggle with right now is finding doctors that are going to listen to them and believe them when they say that they're sick. It's always been a shocking idea to me that anyone would think that I would pretend to be sick and leave my career that I worked decades to build and worked hard on my education to get my PhD and to be a faculty member. And just, if anyone thinks I would make that up just to not work anymore and not spend time with my family and friends the way that I used to, it's really offensive, honestly, that doctors would say things like that. I guess there may be people who make up illnesses. I don't think it's a very large percentage of the population, but it is certainly the experience that a lot of people with long COVID have, is that the doctors don't want to believe that it's happening because they don't understand it, and that's been tough. And Lila has seen me be upset about that many times. So even going to the doctor can be exhausting when you have long COVID.
Once she was on the phone with her friend for a while, and just after being on the phone, she shut down.
Yes. Even talking can make me really exhausted. So even this conversation, I'll have to rest after.
She's been preparing for this all day.
She's not wrong. I have been lying down and preparing for this so that I would have the energy, because I think this is so important. Do you think it's important?
You said it's important.
Do you think it's important to tell people about it?
Yes.
Why?
Because if the more people we tell, the faster it'll reach Dolly Parton. And then she will get a bunch of people on it, and then
Possibly.
we'll find a cure.
Possibly. But it's also important just to let everybody know, right? That this is real and that this is...
Yeah, I think most of the people in the world don't know.
I think you're right.
About long COVID.
I think a lot of people don't know. I still go to doctor's appointments.
Once I said, well, my dad would have to take me. And then someone was like, why? Why not your mom? I said, I'll have to ask my dad when he gets out of work. And she was like, why don't you ask your mom? And I was like, well, she's sick. And she was like, oh, is she contagious? I was like, no. And I explained the whole thing. And she was like, wow, I had no idea that existed.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know. And it can be hard sometimes.
I'm pretty sure none of our friends knew until
I got sick.
You told them.
Right. Well, and it can be hard sometimes to know what to tell people versus what to not say, right? Like, do you feel like you have to tell people that your mom is sick to explain things all the time?
No.
Yeah.
Just it depends on if I feel like they'll judge me for it.
Yeah. What kind of judging do you think they would do?
I don't know what kind of judging there is.
Do you think that they would...
I'm not judged very often.
Do you think that they would think there was something wrong with you, or that you were less of a good person because your mom is sick?
Probably.
Really?
But those are all the
not nice people?
Fake friends.
Fake friends, but real friends wouldn't do that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah. Real friends wouldn't do that.
Name.
That's right. Well, and that can be hard. Just, you're starting middle school, and you're going to make a lot of new friends and meet a lot of new people, and it's going to be hard for both of us, because I'm going to meet new parents.
I'm going to find some new ways of judgment.
You'll find some new ways of judgment in middle school. But that's going to be tricky for both of us, because we'll have to decide how much we need to tell people, how much they need to know based on, their interactions with us. So, like, sometimes when I come to your tennis matches,
mm-hmm.
and I have to lie in the car and
mm-hmm.
not watch the tennis match, everybody on your tennis team and your tennis coach, they know that I'm sick.
How
all the parents know? Because I've told them. But that's our small community.
How did you tell them?
I told them last year, actually.
But some people are new.
Well, the parents that were there when I was at the first game when it wasn't too hot.
Oh.
And so I think your coach tells other parents why, if they are wondering...
They're concerned about
me. Why I'm laying in the car. But when you go to middle school, it's going to be a whole new set of people. And, there may be times that I'm not well and I have to do something weird, like lay down in a weird place, like I have to do sometimes. And then I always feel the need to explain myself. Don't explain myself. Oh, that's probably good.
Because then people will just judge you for that, and they shouldn't judge you for the fact that you're sick.
That's true. I don't think everyone judges. I think that people don't understand chronic illness very well, and that it makes them uncomfortable and they don't know how to react.
They don't know if you'll get them sick, but you
Well,
won't.
That's true, but I do tell people I'm not contagious if they ask if I'm sick. I think that's a top concern.
I just want to say thank you both.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
I talked about Dolly Parton more than myself.
You did talk about Dolly Parton a lot.